One of your controversial situations was infrastructure sharing.
Yeah.
A lot of people, I think, believe that you have a vendetta with Econet Wireless because of, and when you really look at what you were trying to do, it kind of makes sense. But tell us a little more about infrastructure sharing.
Okay. So one of the things that I always want to do if I get into a space, it is to add value. I don't want to get into a space and see things as they are, maintain things as they are. I'd like to get into a space and add real value.
Right.
So I looked around and I said, what could we do differently that would allow rapid expansion of services, particularly in the rural areas where network was not available? I realized that Telecel, Econet, Net1 were in competition to put up base stations. They will put up towers on the same mountain, 3 of them. Each one will have a generator and they will be delivering diesel. 3 different cars delivering diesel to that generator. They'll have 3 guards guarding differently all that infrastructure. And I realized that all this infrastructure is actually imported and the country is desperate for foreign currency. And I said, I have seen in South Africa, I've seen in China, I've seen in Europe, what companies do through the regulator is they are compelled to establish one facility that accommodates everyone. Whoever establishes that gets paid by the others who rent space on that infrastructure. I said, this is where we should go. But it was already happening. Econet was using Tel1 infrastructure. Liquid or Zoll was using ZETDC infrastructure because they were laying their fiber cable on existing power pylons. They were already sharing the infrastructure in my government institutions.
Right.
So I said, well, the model is already formulating on itself. So let's now formalize it. So what I decided to do was, can we have a policy that defines infrastructure sharing as Econet Mugaisa base stations Bamrambinda. Isai no accommodate multiple players. And then
those multiple
Net1, Telecel, or Danny J network will have to pay Econet to rent space on that infrastructure. So that was the concept. So when I introduced it, I think I was misunderstood by Econet, and I would probably say by Strive Masiyiwa, because there was always what appeared like a conflict between government and Econet. And I think there was a misunderstanding that I was coming with that attitude. But I was saying, but you guys are already using Tel1 infrastructure. You guys are already using government infrastructure, yes, ZETDC. Muruguisa ma cables and fiber, yes, all onto that infrastructure. You're already sharing government infrastructure. Why do you not want your infrastructure to be shared? But I realized also that networks had a wrong perception or conception of competition. Competition was on infrastructure, not on service. Zimbabweans don't eat infrastructure, they eat service. So therefore, the competition had to be redirected from Ndinindinema base stations Agawanda to Ndinindi to offer the best service. Compete on service, not on infrastructure. So I tried to redirect the agenda iende towards competition on service and not competition on how many towers you have. And if you have many towers, good for you. Earn more money. Let them pay you for having that. But Econet felt that that was their competitive advantage. And therefore, allowing Telecel or Net1 to come on and be on there would give them competition to the customers that they were enjoying exclusively. And then they didn't understand me.
But it kind of makes sense. So if I start today my network and I put 1,000 base stations across the nation, and then somebody wakes up tomorrow and starts their network and they want to leverage on my 1,000 base stations.
For a fee.
But who determines the fee?
It was going to be the network themselves, the owner of the the owner of the infrastructure would say, this is what it cost me and this is what I'm going to
You
charge
as
you.
the regulator would probably say...
But the regulator has no agenda against an individual player.
But I would probably put a premium on that so that you are not as competitive.
Well, a regulator
Because I would deliberately make sure that you're more expensive than me. Because it's my base station.
Well, I think that would have to be a conversation between the networks on what is fair.
But they didn't want to have the conversation.
They didn't want to have the conversation because Econet, as the biggest player with the widest network coverage, felt that this would eat into their subscriber base, which is a valid from one perspective. Yeah. But I was looking at this from a national point of view, because I'm now saying, why should we have 3 generators when we can have 1 generator? We're spending foreign currency on bringing that diesel. Yeah. We're wasting resources on bringing those generators. Mm-hmm. We are bringing in the steel towers. We are bringing in them from outside the country. Why should we deny somebody who wants to bring in drugs for the hospitals access to foreign currency? Tite mute competition here, three facilities where 1 could actually save the 3. Yeah. So it was that concept, but it was misunderstood.
So
but I'm glad.
It was never taken?
No, that is what they're doing now. No, it was implemented.
Okay.
Yeah, but by fire, by force, which shouldn't have been the case, really.
Yeah, because when you look at Cell C has decommissioned all their base stations. They are running on MTN and Vodacom base stations.
It's an established international principle.
Cell C does not own a single base station.
Exactly.
It makes sense. I mean,
but they have a network. I think that's the same with even Virgin Mobile when it was there in South Africa. They were
it's a virtual network. They don't put up infrastructure.
So are you saying to me I could start my own Danny J cellular network and then pay these guys? I can be a wholesale purchaser.
Absolutely, you can start your own virtual network, mobile network, as a result of that policy. It allows people to come in and establish services. This is where I wanted to drive things to before I was accused of trying to undermine Econet's business. Mm-hmm. To say, don't compete on infrastructure. Let's build a strong infrastructure which allows new players to come in and offer their services. Then competition becomes service competition, not infrastructure competition. And when you have service competition, you'll have all fantastic products and the consumer enjoys that.
The Danny J Show.